Welcome to Your Tru Awakening Podcast. This is a podcast for creators, leaders who are done faking it and are ready to live from their soul. I'm your host, Sandra Tru, and I'm here to help you break old patterns, reclaim your energy, and rise into your most magnetic, purposeful life. So each week we dive into a powerful conversation and practical tools to help you stop performing and start creating a life that actually feels like you. So let's go. Today I'm so excited because I am in a conversation with Sandeep Singh Gandhi, helping conscious creators awaken their artists from within. And if you know a little bit about me, this is really exciting because me too. So through his work in Tandav, he weaves yogic wisdom, practices with conscious life design, tools to guide people into living their most enchanted, soul aligned lives. And I am so excited to have you here, Sandeep. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really grateful. Thank you.
I want to just share that I met you in one of your powerful experiences where you're teaching Kriya Yoga. So first of all, I just want to say that I'm passionate about multidimensional people who are living in their seeming contradictory way, that their expression in life is so unique and so themselves. And this is what I witnessed. And I was like, oh, we need to have a conversation because the practices that you're sharing are so powerful. I was telling you when we met that I have been looking for this work, right? This work in Kriya Yoga and this kind of yogic practice, which comes from a very amazing lineage, right? From the lineage of Babaji, which is who essentially Yogananda comes from, like Paramahansa Yogananda. But it's even like so many amazing people have been through this lineage. And I'm sure like all yoga is alive and is changing and it's more to our times. But can you share a little bit about that? I want to speak about your yoga, your Jyotish, which is also a part of yoga. It's all union, and then what you're doing with Tandav, right? So tell me a little bit about the beautiful synergy that you're creating with all your work.
Yeah, thank you for that invitation. It's been a profound journey for me personally, and it's been beautiful to be able to share that with others as well, and just to see the impact it has on people. But to speak a little bit about the Himalayan Kriya yogic practice, the lineage that I'm trained in, as you rightly said, comes from Babaji originally. And Paramahansa Yogananda, the author of Autobiography of a Yogi, brought a slice of it to the West. Mm-hmm. And so he was a pioneer who really brought Kriya Yoga to the West. But he structured it in a very specific way, given what we were ready for at the time. And so if you go through what he's created, there's a beautiful structured process through which you get initiated into different practices and you move through that. Of course, while he brought that to the West, it continued to develop, the practices continued to develop in the Himalayas, and where which is primarily their birthplace. So my teachers are still there, and that's where I go, at least a couple of times a year to fill my cup, if you will. Yeah, so it's been beautiful to train, with master yogis and, be able to spend time with them and just learn not just the wisdom, not just the practices, but just the lifestyle of yoga, because it is so integrated in like in every aspect of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that what's so beautiful about yoga is that it's really uniting with all of life, right? It's like till this day, it's such an influential pillar to my life because it is helping us remember the interconnectedness of all things. And so when some of us here are thinking about, I'm gonna go do the yoga class, there's a way to being able to live the practice of yoga, to live it off a mat, off a breath work practice, but to live it in such union that there's an openness, right, in the way that we're living. There is a meaning and a purpose to the way that we're living. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for bringing that practice. I love that you're doing them. I want to see a lot more of you teaching, and which is like, I know you're doing so many things, so I'm sure this is a beautiful contribution for community as well. Tell me a little bit about Jyotish and how you're weaving that to support people in expanding themselves.
Yeah. So Jyotish, in the West, most of us will when we think Jyotish, to the extent that we are even familiar with that word, we'll think of it as the astrology equivalent that comes from the yogic lineage, and that is, I guess, as accurate as it can get in terms of the bridging the language, right? But Jyotish literally means it's a composite Sanskrit term, which basically is made of two Sanskrit words. It's Jyoti and Ishta. So Jyoti literally means light, and Ishta is the finest expression in human form. So Jyotish then becomes this beautiful luminous science of shining light to the highest expression that is available to a soul in this particular lifetime. So when you think of it that way, it is much, much bigger than just astrological predictions, for instance.
Yeah.
Right? So the way I've been taught to hold Jyotish and the way I've found it most impactful for myself and also for people I work with is seeing it as an integrated piece within the yogic practice. So, and what that allows us to do is to just hold it very differently, right? So there's this idea of, I can go a lot into technicalities, but I'll pause there maybe for a second and see which thread you want to pull on.
Yeah. Well, I just want to start by saying that this conversation, as we were preparing for it, we were like, but let's call it like written in the stars but lived on earth, right? Embodying our cosmic design on earth. So what we're speaking about is that there is a signature, there is your own unique imprint that it's written. What Sandeep is inviting us to consider is that there is a practice that helps us guide that. Like there is a guidance, there is a blueprint, and the expression of that is up to us. And I know from our conversations that this is the different way that you are guiding Jyotish, right? Which is a lot of people that would go into someone that's doing astrology or Jyotish astrology to like, tell me what's going to happen with my life. And I know from our conversations, which I found so beautiful, is like you are not a victim of what is written. You have the power and you have the capacity to guide your life through understanding what is arising, like what are the obstacles that might naturally arise in you through because of your karma or any circumstances that are present in your blueprint. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's very accurate, and I'm happy to add a little more color to that if that would be helpful to the
Yeah, it would.
conversation.
Please.
Yeah. So when we think of like planetary influence, right? Like these are basically influences. And many of us are like, and I come from that camp of being very skeptical about this whole astrology business, right? And because I come from an engineering and finance background, that was what.
Yeah, that's amazing to bring that in because
Sure.
yeah. Tell
So
me a
there's
little
all,
bit about tell me a little bit about how old were you when you started moving more towards the yogic path and the Yotish path?
yeah. So I would say, I mean, I've grown up around this obviously because I grew up in India, so it was all around me. And but of course, it's just because you're around it doesn't mean you know anything about it, you know. So so you take things in through osmosis and stuff like that. But really, I actually got into it. I would say about 7, 8 years ago. And really over the past 5 years where I've really kind of dived in and just wanting to study more and more.
And what were you doing before that?
Oh, so my background is in consulting and investing. I was working with an investment management firm in the institutional. So we manage institutional money. That's kind of what we did before.
Yeah.
So that is my work before.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that piece in because it's so beautiful where you are now, and especially when we go into the other exploration, right, of what you're helping people do, is that it's like, okay, so you have this awareness of there is a map that it's written in people. I guess you fall in love with it, right? 7 years ago, you fall in love with like, if people knew this, right? If this could bring so much to people, and then how are you merging it now with what you're doing?
Yeah. So the reason I got into Jyotish was I had a reading when I first started kind of studying yoga. I had a reading with my yoga teacher, and he told me of a very specific date that was like 2 years ago. And he said, you had a big shift then. And I remember that date to the date because I know exactly what happened then. And there was Sandeep before that and there was Sandeep after that. You know, so it's a very, very clear marker and event horizon in my life. So, and he saw that in the chart. So I was like, okay, how is he able to see this? And so that's what got me intrigued about Jyotish. and wanting to study it. And as I dove into it, it just continued to blow my mind. And I often say that, there was like I had this as my view of how the world worked, and then studying yoga did this, and then when I got into Jyotish, it was almost like, this is the wall, and there's this whole window there that I did not know existed, and there's this whole new perspective of how the world operates that I just had no clue about. And so the mind is like gets completely blown. So obviously the mind is very uncomfortable with that, because it's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm used to living a certain way or having a certain view of the world.
Yeah.
And that's kept you alive so far. So don't bring this new stuff in.
Especially as a strong thinker, right? Which a lot of the audience or and people that are just here in the West, right? We have been we grew up in a culture that celebrates thinking above all of our other faculties. So I imagine having a background in finance and engineer, like the moment that you're just like, okay, so I'm having this experience with yoga, this practice, which is so beautiful. And but then it's just like, oh my God, I haven't seen anything yet. There's so much more. I think I'm a little bit there right now of like exploring Jyotish and exploring so many other maps of consciousness that are giving us information like the gene keys and the human design and numerology. And I'm like have been eating it up, right, for the past few years. And it's so important, but because we do have a cosmic design, but what does it mean to you to have that cosmic design, and what can we do about that?
Yeah, it's a very important question, and here's the thing to understand that uh, according to yoga, and I completely believe this because this has kind of become my lived experience through the practices, that we are one organism. So if you think of the entire cosmos as one big organism, and you and I are basically cells within that organism, right? So if you take the example of your body, for instance, right? You have a red blood cell and you have a white blood cell somewhere else, right? And each of these guys have decided that, okay, I'm going to call myself Sandra, I'm going to call myself Sandeep. Okay, so we've grown a personality. And suddenly we think we are separate organisms, but really we are contributing to the welfare and the well-being of your body, for instance, right? So that's the understanding of the world. If we understand that we are really cells within an organism, and each one has a different role to play. Like the organism does not thrive if every cell decides that, oh, I want to be a brain cell because that is the sexy thing to do. The organism does not thrive, right? You need brain cells, you need cells that are nails, you need cells that are, I don't know, like ears, those kind of things, right? So you need different roles that are played by different people. And so when you bring that into the macrocosm, each of us comes here with a very specific blueprint to play a very, very specific role. And I spoke about this briefly in my TED talk as well, that each of us is as unique as a snowflake, or as a leaf, and no two leaves are ever the same. And just like that, no two human beings are ever the same.
Right.
So the gift that you're here to share is so unique that if you don't actually do the work to bring that out, then all of creation never gets to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So the role of Jyotish here becomes, how do we shed light to the highest potential that you have access to, and then use the practices of Kriya to essentially move past the memory that we carry, whether through our karma or circumstances and stuff like you mentioned, like past history, generational trauma, you name it, right? The Kriya practices are so potent to dislodge that memory, so that you are not bound by the chart per se. Now the chart becomes something that helps you to move in the direction of why you truly came here. As opposed to confining you to, oh, you are kind of doomed, this is your destiny, right? Because the combination of these two gives us the tools to actually move towards the highest expression that is available within the confines of what you came here for.
Yeah, which I think it's so beautiful, because so much of what I witness was speaking to clients and working with people is that there is a lot of awareness emerging right now. There's many of us, especially people that would land in front of someone that does the kind of work that I do or the kind of work that you do, they are have been exploring consciousness and awareness and becoming aware of their traumas and their woundings. And so but at some point it doesn't really matter what traumas you have, like we all have them. It's like, what are you going to do about it, right? So it's not enough to have information and to know where you are in the stars and what has happened to you. It's not enough. What's most important is that we land that, we ground that cosmic information or that historical information into what are we here to do. Like what is the value of that? Like to really understand the value of one's life and the importance of passing it on, because we're here doing what nature is doing that circular prosperity, generous way of being, which is forever just moving in a spherical way, giving and receiving. And we receive so many of these beautiful gifts, and if we don't give them, it's almost selfish in a way. Right. So why do you think this is important for people to start to understand the importance of not only expanding their awareness, but doing the practices that can help them bring the best out of them out into the world? Why is that important on a personal level?
So the reason that's important is because that's what your heart truly yearns for. Underneath it all, I mean, there's all these aspirations we have. Okay, I want to make this much money. I want to, get to this title. I want to have, these many houses. I want to travel, all of that. Underneath all of that is really the yearning to experience a certain feeling. And that feeling state is what your heart is truly after.
Yes. Yeah, I love
So
that.
that's why it's important. It's for your fulfillment, for you to really, truly, it's self-realization, really, that's what it is.
And when you are in self-fulfillment, that is where your creativity spikes, right? Because if you
Absolutely.
think about it, you have a regulated nervous system when you're in like that santosha state, that place of contentment or being fulfilled by life, right? It's like the root word of enthusiasm, right? The Greek word enthos, which is to be possessed by God. Like when we are in fulfillment, we feel like we're possessed by God, right? Like that there's a presence, there's an observer and a guiding energy that is essentially living my life, and I'm able to, in through my uniqueness and through my personality, expand that same energy that's flowing through me and use it as the colors of my own, to paint my own canvas in a way, right? And it's just
Yeah.
important because so many of us are like looking at the horoscope, right? And it's just like, oh, let me see what's my horoscope saying today. And like we get like this little like hint of dopamine or validation that we read something in the horoscope, but it's not the same as living the Dharma, right? Like living your soul's purpose, like actually taking the actions, doing the practices, having the discipline that really gives you the light, like being disciplined to what gives you the light, right? To what is making you come alive. And so, this is really powerful that you're saying, like it's not just important to understand what is there for you when we're looking at your chart through Jyotish, but that the practices that are purifying your path, essentially, that are purifying the illusion of yourself, so that you can bring that out into the world. Why would you say that's important, in when we're thinking about being in that Gaia consciousness, understanding ourselves as like part of the whole collective? Why is that important?
So going back to the analogy that I was giving earlier about, being an organism, and each of us comes to play a certain role and have like certain gifts that we are here to express and share into the world. And that's what creates the entire organism in a way that it thrives, right? So to the extent that some cells are not really playing to their highest potential, the organism is not thriving, right?
Yeah.
So we all have a vested interest in making sure that, first of all, we ourselves are moving towards the highest expression. And two, to the extent we can, we are inspiring and supporting anyone and everyone else to do the same, no matter how different their expression looks from ours. Trusting that there's a reason why they are the way they are and why their expression is, maybe completely opposite to us and we absolutely don't understand it, but they are there for a reason,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Totally. The
Mhm.
it makes me think of like when you're speaking about cells, and I bring this up when I'm guiding often, which is like it's about a cell that's holding a lot of electricity, right? Like, can we increase our capacity to hold? Electricity is a good visual, right? Because it's almost like energy moving into a system. That energy you can think about as inspiration, as love, as finance, as money, as energy, in all the ways that like that aha, that mic drop of Einstein, right? Like energy is God, or however you want to call it, the universe, the field. But how can we continue to expand our capacity to be, to hold, so that it can move through us? Because it is when we hold that much amount of electricity, of energy, of vitality, that and we focus on that. How can I hold that? That's how we inspire other people. That's the easiest way to inspire other people, not by going into like, I have to serve and be a martyr, right? But it's just like, no, it's actually by being in the fullness of your personal expression that you go ahead and you pass that electricity everywhere you go. So at the meta level, the importance of living our design, right? Like getting that cosmic down into the embodiment of how we're living. Like, what are we consciously expending our time valuing, right? Because it's a matter of value, essentially. That shape
Yeah.
our reality. It starts to shape our reality because everything we give our energy to just simply expands. And so I really love that. So who do you think can benefit most from the work that you're doing?
Um, so I would say two things to that. So one, the only person who will benefit from this is someone who wants it. If you don't want it, you're not going to benefit from it. That doesn't mean the work is not powerful, but you have to want it because it requires work, right? And it requires work, and you have to be willing to do that, right? And as I like to say, no pressure, no diamond. You kind of, or no fire, no gold. You kind of have to go through that in
Yeah.
order to kind of come out into your highest expression, right? So that's the first piece. Willingness is key. Okay. And then within that, what I have found, at least in my experience so far, that the people who tend to gravitate towards me and I tend to work most with, as people who are going through some sort of a transition. And typically, the way I like to characterize is that, okay, there was Sandra 1.0, and now she knows that she's ready for 2.0. And now we're kind of in that messy middle. We don't really know what 2.0 looks like yet, but we know that she's done with 1.0. She knows she's done with 1.0, and she needs kind of some kind of guidance around how to navigate this, right? So that's kind of the what I'm seeing, come more into my field. A lot of it is people in the creative space. A lot of it is highly sensitive people. Because I am a sensitive guy, so I think it just kind of
Yeah.
it just kind of attracts that, if you will, and that just gives me a very deep understanding of how sensitivity works because I live it every day.
Totally. Oh my goodness. Talk about, I'm such a sensitive person, and for so long that seemed to be my Achilles heel, and now to be in a place because of the practices, because the consistency, because of the discipline, where that sensitivity has become my greatest gift. The thing about change is like that beautiful quote. I don't remember who said it, but it's like the gates of change can only be opened through the inside, right? And it's like, and the beauty of that is that when we allow ourselves to do the work to change, we are moving with change instead of resisting it, which is the only constant that is ever happening in our life, right? The truth is that we're always in transition. We are always in change. And so if we start to move with it, towards it proactively, then what we're doing is that we don't have to go through crisis as often as we do, or through chaos, or through big explosions in our life, because we're on that consistent change. And what I hear a lot of people coming to me is with this resistance of change, the resisting the change. And that's really how we create suffering. So many people say that the the root of all evil is desire, right? And I would say, like, honestly, there's me thinking about evolutionary biology. Like, there needs to be desire in the cosmos. The cosmos is desiring to expand and increase, and what I think is the root of all suffering is resistance to the expansion, resistance to the growth, right? So from that point of view, it's like the importance of understanding that if you're in a moment in your life where you feel I'm disconnected, I'm not connected to my body, I'm not connected to my purpose, and I think even bigger, which maybe a lot of people won't be able to give it the name, is I am disconnected from the greater purpose, from my source, right? And so sometimes that seems to be in so many buckets, but really there's that longing that you know you've done so much, but you know there's so much more. Yes, there's always so much more, right? And I truly believe that people can start to look for mentors, not when thing is breaking down, but to be proactive. Like, what about looking for mentorship when things are going well, so that you keep building on increasing, right? So that's the way I think that how the people that I admire the most are growing, which is consistently putting themselves around people who are inspiring them to be greater because they're holding so much vitality and so much purpose and getting so much support themselves, you know? What are your thoughts
Indeed.
on that?
Yeah, a couple of things. So one, I want to speak to the desire piece for a second. So as you rightly point out, without desire, there's no life. Like you and I would not exist. We would not be here without desire, right? So desire itself is maligned in a lot of spiritual circles, and that's very wrong, very incorrect, if you will, or a flawed understanding of what desire is about, right? So according to yogic teachings, there's this concept of what in Sanskrit we call purusharthas, or four primary pillars of human life. And so they are dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So dharma is really why are you here, your aligned purpose. Okay, so living in alignment with your design and why you are here. And then the second is artha, is like how do you earn a living in the material world. Okay, and then kama is the desire, and then moksha is freedom or liberation, right? So without going in too much into details of this, what I want to point out is the primacy of dharma. When you are in alignment with your design, the desires that arise in you will be in service of that.
Yes.
It's when we are not in alignment, then we get completely taken over by desire. And then there is, an overindulgence and going into, spaces that actually do not serve us. But desire in and of itself, in service of dharma, is not just necessary. It is the rasa, it is the joy of life. Yeah, exactly. It is the joy of life.
Right? It's like I've had these conversations with people who have a background of a spirit, like religious background, and then they're moving more into the spiritual way of looking at things, and they have this struggle with desire. And so to clarify that for them, we do the work of understanding what is the desire that is trying to quiet my void, right? That I'm using X desire as something that is giving me external validation, or it's giving me a way to distract or avoid the great longing, the real longing, the real thing that I'm after. And then there's this, so I would call those like ego desires, desires of my personality, from my conditioning, from my story, things that I think I want. And it feels very real, right? Whether that is sex, attention, things, money, for having money, all these things that we are a part of, right? A part of a culture that celebrates that. And so those are, or food, right? A lot of people struggle with food or cigarettes or whatever vice that they're doing. That's an egoic desire. That's a desire that is not coming from the soul. But then there's those weird desires that we have no idea why they're a part of us, but they like hurt in a beautiful way, because we know their possibility and we know the potential and we can see the picture, and we love it, right? When we're in it, when we're doing it, there's this love, right? For some of us, that comes with like seeing, like for me, is like seeing people have aha moments, or having people expand, seeing people birthing themselves into them. I have a desire of seeing humanity in their creative state, versus their shameful state, which is something that it's unique to all of us, right? Like all of us are going to have a different window of how that those soul desires express themselves. And also that's in my chart, right? Like if you look at my that is written in the stars for me, so that's beautiful guidance. And then it's like, what is it that I'm willing to do about it, to remove the distractions, to remove the desires that are not involutionary desires, right? And
Beautifully said.
so when we start looking at it like that, there's so much that we can be and do when we're connected to that internal compass, which is, I really believe, some of the work that these ancient teachings can support us in really sensing and following. There's so much spaciousness when you give your attention to what you know your path is, right? There's actually more time because
Yeah.
there's less distractions. Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. That's a beautiful, beautiful way of putting it. And the focus piece is really, really important because there's only that much energy we have, right? And so, in fact, alongside yoga, I'm as you probably know that I'm doing this the conscious investing work as well,
Which
and
is
that is
so
the
cool.
right. Thank you. And then that literally is called drishti, and drishti means two things. It means focus, so it's got the zoomed in component to it, and it also has the zoom out perspective, right? So the focus part is really, really important. But the reason why most of us are not able to do that is because we don't know where to focus, right? And so this is where the chart can be really helpful. But I also want to clarify that the chart is not the holy grail. Okay, so it's very important to understand that, oh, you suddenly have a reading and now everything you need to know, you know, right? It's it's very clear to me that first of all, these readings happen exactly when they're meant to. I can give you, I don't know how many examples of people having booked like months in advance, but if it's not meant to happen then, it will not happen then. And then people who book like, who reach out to me like 2 days before and I'll be like, okay, there's a slot, do you want it? And it happens. So these happen exactly when they're meant to. And it's become very, very clear to me. And typically there's a nugget or two that the person is meant to hear in that moment. So, and that nugget or two is kind of the breadcrumb that you need in order to move forward. Right? So it's not like it's going to paint the whole picture for you. It requires you to be tapped in and connected to spirit, to your own intuition, to be listening to your heart as well, to connect. And then the chart can give you very strong guidance to kind of, sift through which of the intuitive hits that you're getting do you want to embark on, right? And then the other piece of it is the conscious life design piece, and that is the reason I want to bring that up as well is because there's this aspect of being in the spiritual work that almost is kind of devoid or even kind of looks down upon being in the material realm in some way. It's almost like, okay, if you're in the spiritual world, then money is bad. You know you need it, but somehow it's like, okay, I can't be asking for it or something like that. There's this some sort of a cultural messaging around that. But the truth is that we need a balance between the material and the spiritual,
Totally.
right? Right, and that's where the conscious life design part is so important for me because the chart gives us information on why you are here. But the conscious life design really helps me understand, okay, what is it that your heart truly desires in terms of the kind of life that you wish to live? Remove from all cultural messaging of like, oh, what success looks like or what you ought to be doing, and then, taking that into first getting clear on that and then looking at, okay, what does that mean in terms of finances? Because we've all been, I think, culturally been fed this story that, oh, we just need to be more is better and we just need to be saving until we're 65 and then somehow magically we'll just kind of be retired, whatever that looks like, right? But if your idea of the most enchanted life is a cabin in the woods, do you really need a few $1,000,000? Like, do you really need that? And then now you've spent 40 years accumulating that only to realize that, oh, actually, I could have done with a fraction of that. And I could have started this living my best life maybe like 30 years ago. It's like,
Get to the, and that's the same thing, right? Like following your own inner desire from your soul. And so having the intuition is like, I think that so many people are depending on these externals, even the information that our chart has, or sitting in medicine ceremonies for the information. But that's the
mhm,
whole conversation that we wanted to bring you, that it's not enough to have information and awareness. The work really happens when you start to take the actions, the steps that are from your heart, being connected to your purpose. And from that place, being able to channel that energy in a way that is helping you create a life that's reflecting your heart's desires, that's reflecting what your soul is here to do. And I really
mhm.
love that you're creating this whole world around conscious, like knowing your finances and knowing the importance of, if we're part of this great organism, right? If we're part of this great organism that is a circulating, self filtering machine, alive body, then the importance of understanding that that's what we're doing. That's what we have the opportunity to do, to be circulators, to be expanding, that the more that we are making, if we choose that to be our path, the more that is because we're giving the most contribution. And if we're giving and if we're spending a lot, which is like you're giving a lot of service to other people. So the importance of really getting clear on like what are my stories around finances, around money, that might be keeping me from being a good circulator of another form of energy, right? Or another form of all that is, which is money. So I really love that you're bringing that in also, because so many people, like you said, have been thinking is this way or that way, when in reality is like, how can we merge them to create something that's integral and whole?
Yeah, and that's been a deep journey for me personally. I can't say that. In fact, I absolutely wouldn't say that I was. It was always kind of a blended thing for me, and it was very clear. There was a huge tension within me, within around that. And
Same.
I speak to that in my talk as well for a while. And yeah, it took a lot of internal work to be able to find the balance between the two, and even the balance is a dance.
Yeah.
Like right after this call, I have a call with my business partner to see whether to discuss the potential of kind of taking a leadership role. And there's this inner thing, inner dialogue in me is like, do I really want that? You know,
Yeah.
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 So yeah, so just kind of getting again, just grounding back into okay, what does your heart truly want? And then whatever opportunities are coming your way, is that in service of the higher goal that you've kind of a higher vision that you're working towards.
Yeah. What is the name of your TED Talk again?
If you just look up my name, Sandeep Gandhi, and conscious investing, you'll find it on YouTube.
It's a beautiful talk. I listened to it and I was like, yes, I love that, because personally, I have had to train myself to want things, because some of us are born not having this, like not being moved by money,
Mm-hmm.
like not being moved by money. So I had to really learn to want and to change my understanding of money, and to really think about it as like an expression of consciousness, and a way that I can allow myself to touch more, to connect more, to give more, right? And in that same way, to contribute more, to be able to give the opportunity for other people to serve. So that,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's really getting the information that we have, right, of our gifts, and being able to create a life where we're using those gifts, creating contribution, and from that contribution, being good spenders and having consciousness with where we're putting our money, how we're voting with our money, which is a
Mm-hmm.
conversation that a lot of people in the spiritual communities might not want to have. But in reality, it's like we are voting every time we make a purchase, right? It's like
Yes.
every time we
Yes.
make a spend, anytime it's like our money, one of my mentors says, like, if I want to know what you value, I just need to see your credit card statements and your calendar.
Right.
And
Right.
then it's revelatory of the things we value. The things we value is what we're doing with our money and what we're doing with our time and how we're managing it. So I think what you're doing there with conscious investing is so powerful, especially from someone that's coming from such a soul-centered place. I think it's really beautiful. So thank you
Mhm.
for that work.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
Yeah. So for someone listening right now that feels the pull to get in touch with you, how can they connect with you?
So a few different ways you can connect with me on Instagram. It is my name, Sandeep.Tandav, which is the name of the practice. So Sandeep.Tandav.yoga.
Hmm.
My website for yoga is Tandav.yoga.
Hmm.
And otherwise, my email is Sandeep@Tandav.yoga. So,
And I know you're also going to India soon, right? For an amazing.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, no. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It's coming up in November. There's a summit, a yoga summit at my yoga school. So this is an opportunity for people who've never been to India before and kind of feel a tug towards it, but are somehow intimidated at the prospect of it. So this is more of like I would say, a pilgrimage of sorts. It's not a touristy thing. We are going to go to the yoga capital of the world, Rishikesh, and spend time in my yoga school. At the summit, we're going to have like basically, a lot of the conscious community from all over the world come in. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of cultural events. There's a lot of yoga, obviously, and you're kind of steeped in yogic wisdom. You're right by the holy river,
By the
and
Ganga.
you're right by and you're right by the Himalayas, and there's and then we'll spend some time after that going to some of the very potent sacred sites and temples and stuff in Rishikesh, and then there's an adjoining city, Haridwar, which is known for its just spiritual potency as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the focus of that trip. That's
I
coming up in November.
I love that. I miss India so much. I really love Mama India, It's like one of those places for some of us that we go and like, oh, I'm from here. Like a part of me is from here for some reason.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
thank you, everybody. If you feel that something was stirring in you during this conversation, that's your soul remembering you, right? Your design is not just about what you know, but it's how you live it. That's why I'm interested in helping you learn, right? The conscious creator experience and my soul set system are all about helping you embody what you're here to live, what you're here to do. And if you're ready to take what's written in the stars and bring it into your body, into your business, into your relationships, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Sandeep. If, there is the energy of generosity. There's always a person that's really matching with our energy. So, and we work so differently and also from a heart-centered space. So stay connected. If this episode brought some amazing gifts to your day, please subscribe, share this with someone that can benefit from this conversation, and we will see you again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra.